The Dick Van Dyke Show. Starring Dick Van Dyke. Rosemary, Maury Amsterdam, Larry Matthews, and Mary Tyler Moore.
Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is KJ Ricardo. Today's episode is a look at my list of the top 10 Robert Petrie moments of Season 2 of The Dick Van Dyke Show. Rob Petrie is such a great character. He's so comedic. Let's get started. Number 10 is I'm No Henry Walden. This is a pretty great episode featuring Rob. He has been invited to attend a very fancy formal dinner party for writers. He's invited, but he doesn't really know why he's there. He doesn't think he's worthy because he's a comedy writer, and everyone else attending this party, they're very serious at their craft. They all have novels and everything. No one really knows who he is. They mispronounce his name all the time. And so I included this episode in my list because it features Rob and his career as a writer very well. Number 9 is It's a Shame She Married Me. I really like this episode as well. This features Rob and his jealousy. One of Laura's former beaux has returned and he's flirting with Laura. It's pretty obvious that he's flirting with her, and Rob doesn't like it. And so this episode really features him being jealous over this former beau. It's a pretty great episode. Number 8 is Racy, Tracy, Rattigan. This is another episode that is featuring Rob's jealousy. Now in this episode features guest star Richard Dawson. Now that name might be familiar to you. He was on The Family Feud as the host. And so that's kind of his rise to fame. And so he guest starred on The Dick Van Dyke Show. And so he is flirting with Laura. It's pretty obvious. He's a Racy Tracy. He's Racy Tracy. And Rob doesn't like him at all. He doesn't like that he's flirting with his wife. They invite him over for dinner, and he's flirting with Laura again, and eventually leads to Rob dumping a champagne bottle all over Racy Tracy, and it's a pretty great moment. Number 7 is Gesundheit, darling. Now this episode is really funny with Rob. He believes that he is allergic to his family. Whenever he's around Laura, he starts sneezing all the time. He can't help himself. And so he's like, what? I can't be allergic to my wife. So he goes to the doctor and we get a whole scene with that. And eventually everyone is involved to try to figure out what is Rob sneezing about. What is he allergic to? And it turns out it's all this little kitty cat that he is sneezing and everything. It's just, this episode is really great because just Rob sneezing, it's so hysterical. Number 6 is A Surprise, Surprise is a Surprise. So this episode features Rob's birthday. In the beginning, he overhears Laura and Millie talking about a secret Laura has that she's keeping from Rob. He at first thinks that she's having an affair because the language that they're using kind of gives off this connotation that she could be cheating on him. But then eventually she gets a phone call and she's talking on the phone. He overhears the phone conversation that she's actually planning a surprise party for Rob. So once he hears that, he gets happy. And he's like, oh yes, I know about this surprise party. And just the entire episode is like, he tries to be subtle about it, but you know, everyone knows that he knows the secret. Even Buddy and Sally try to help Laura out by keeping the surprise party a surprise. And at the end of the episode, everyone does manage to surprise Rob on his birthday. And it just makes for an overall very fabulous episode. Number 5 is When a Bowling Pin Talks, Listen. I really enjoy this episode. At the beginning, Richie is watching a TV program featuring a talking bowling pin. He tells Rob about it, but doesn't say that it was on another television show, and Rob thinks it's an original idea. He goes to the office and he acts it out in front of Buddy and Sally. I have a clip of the scene where he's acting out the bowling pin sketch. It's pretty great, so enjoy.
Okay. All right, everybody line up. Line up there, men. Well, number 7 pin, dress right. Hey, boy, I'm sure glad to have automatic pin spotters in here. Those boys have such cold hands. Okay, boy, what a day it's been. I've been up and down more often than the stock market.
Yo-yo.
Oh, good. Yo-yo. What a day. I've been up and down more often than a yo-yo. Very good. Okay, here comes the first ball. Look at the hook on that one. Oh, just missed me. Put out the whole right flank. Okay, here comes... Oh, look at the form on this woman. It's a bouncer. Lanes 2, 3, and 4. Lanes 4, 3, 2, 1 into the coffee shop. And it's going to be a strike, but not in this way.
Good. Keep going.
Okay, here comes another one. It's a gutter ball. No, it's a leaner. Look out. That's it.
Good.
Number 4 is The Attempted Marriage. This is another great flashback episode. Now, this episode focuses on Rob and Laura's marriage. We see when he proposes to her, he's very nervous. He stutters, doesn't really know what he's saying, but she agrees to marry him. On the day of their wedding, he's parked in his Jeep, and he's just thinking things over. And eventually he realizes, oh no, I have to get to the wedding. But his Jeep breaks down. It doesn't start. And so he's fixing his Jeep. He gets dirt and grease all over him. And then he trips and falls. And he's like running to the chapel. And he eventually gets there, but he's way late. And so this episode is really comical because of just everything that happens to Rob. And of course, because we know the future, we know that they eventually get married. But this whole episode is just so great because it features Rob and Dick Van Dyke really well. It's hysterical. Number 3 is Don't Trip Over That Mountain. This is personally one of my favorite episodes. Now this episode, Rob and Jerry are going on a skiing trip. Rob is so excited, but he has never been skiing before. Laura just knows that he's going to trip on that mountain, and she thinks that he's going to trip on purpose just to get back at her. And so she's worried throughout the whole episode. And in fact, Rob does trip. He has a sprained body. It's so hysterical in this episode because he doesn't want to tell Laura. He doesn't want her to be right that he did injure himself. And so he's not going to call her, not going to tell her what happened, that he was at the hospital. And he eventually goes home and he is bandaged up completely. And the whole time he's trying to keep it a secret from her. And that's what makes this episode so great, is him just trying to keep this injury a secret. Number 2 is The Two Faces of Rob. Another great episode. Now in this episode, he's trying to prove to Buddy and Sally that he can call Laura up and disguise his voice and she can still recognize him. But she doesn't. She starts flirting back. He's using this Italian accent and she starts flirting with him. So he's freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh, and he's freaking out the entire episode, which makes this so hysterical. And we get the rest of the episode it's so great. I love this episode. But my number 1 pick is My Husband Is Not a Drunk. This is comedy gold right here, especially with Dick Van Dyke. In this episode, they're having a dinner party and they invite a hypnotist over. So of course they all want to have hypnotist demonstration. They all get hypnotized, and while Buddy is being hypnotized, Rob is in the kitchen and he interprets this hypnotism and he is hypnotized as well. I have a clip of this when it first begins, so enjoy.
Crack the whip.
And eventually, another great moment in this episode is when he is at the office and he's still hypnotized and he's acting drunk, and he gives this whole comedy sketch being drunk and everything. And it's just, Dick Van Dyke is so great in this episode. It's physical comedy all the way. It's just so great. So enjoy this clip.
There is a girl suffocating in my jacket.
Rob, Mr. Bullen is a very busy man.
Just a moment, Mr. Cooley. I am a very busy man. But I'm never too busy to watch a creative writer working out a comedy routine.
Comedy routine.
Yeah, that's very amusing.
Gentlemen, would you please try and control yourselves? There is a poor girl stuck in the lining of my jacket. And I think that I may have to operate on her.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, you see, he's playing drunk, and there's a girl that's got
Rob,
the
you don't have to go as far as throwing your jacket.
Sir, I am a doctor. To save this young girl, I would have cut off my pants and my diploma. What do you think of that, Dr. Zorba?
Rob!
If you are squeamish of mind, why don't you turn to another channel?
Now, that's the kind of sketch I want to see on Alan's show this week.
That's what we planned.
Well, good.
Oh. How do you feel, Marge? That's good. Marge, do not laugh too hard, or you will rip your stitches.
Rip your stitches. I like it.
Oh, Dr. Zorba. Just because I disobeyed you, you didn't have to cut off all your hair.
That's a very funny routine, Rob. Now it's time for our meeting.
Oh, that's marvelous. Just have it. Excuse me, won't you? Oh. Marge.
And that's it. That's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this video focusing on Robert Petrie. Rob is such a great character. He's so comedic. He is really enthusiastic about learning new things like skiing, but also he gets jealous, and his physical comedy is so great in season 2 especially. So let me know what your favorite moment is, and I'll be happy to read that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week with another video. And remember to always laugh often.